A Chinese man has recently come under the scrutiny of U.S. Attorney Sidney Powell, who was investigating fraud in the U.S. elections. The man, Didongsheng, is the Deputy Director and Secretary General of the China Center for Foreign Strategic Studies, and also serves as Deputy Dean of the School of International Relations at Renmin University of China, a leading Chinese university, and is a special researcher at the International Monetary Institute. That being said, it appears he's causing trouble for Xi Jinping. On November 28th, Didongsheng made a video of a speech in Shanghai's Guan Video Studio, in which he unabashedly claimed that between 1992 and 2016, all kinds of problems between China and the US could be solved by unofficial channels.
为什么以前1992年到2016年之间，中美之间各种问题都能搞得定？是不是？大家发现没有？所有的危机，不管是银河号事件，还是炸大使馆，还是撞了飞机，所有事情。 全部是床头吵架床尾和，2个月之内搞定。什么原因？啊，这儿我抛出一个可能又要是暴论了，就是因为咱们上边有人，啊，就是我们在美国的权势核心圈啊，我们有我们的老朋友。
Mr. D seems very proud of himself in the video, citing another example of an elderly woman who was the Asian president of a top Wall Street financial institution, who not only had Chinese citizenship and a Beijing residency, but also owned a courtyard house at Chang'an Street in Dongsheng district, where is closest to the political center of China. He said she was able to help the Chinese Communist Party smooth out many of its difficulties encountered. Didongsheng concludes that in past U.S.-China relations, the CCP could spend money to get everything done, and did so unimpeded. It's just that now, with the Trump administration, these methods are somewhat ineffective. According to Mr. D, Wall Street couldn't contain the situation as Trump took office in 2016. Wall Street even tried to help both sides, including China, in the trade war, but couldn't do much. However, as many media called Biden the president-elect, Mr. D thinks China has a chance again.
但现在呢？现在我们看到拜登上台了，传统的精英、政治精英啊，这个建制派，他们跟华尔街的关系是非常密切的。所以大家看到吧，拜登的儿子被特朗普说你在全球有什么基金公司，发现没有？谁帮他建的基金公司啊？明白吗？ 这里边都有买卖啊，那么，所以这个时候啊，这个时候我们以恰当的方式进行一定的这样一个表达一个善意。
Does this mean that Beijing is trying to get America again by betting on Biden? In Mr. D's speech, he also gave examples of how the Chinese Communist Party uses Wall Street to influence the U.S. For example, prior to Xi Jinping's visit to the US in 2015, all systems of the Communist Party had to help warm up the crowd, and one of the ways they took was to heat public opinion by arranging Xi's new book launch in the US, which Mr. D himself was in charge of coordinating. Also reported in the official Chinese media, the book launch of Xi Jinping's The Governance of China was held on September 17, 2015, at the Politics and Prose bookstore in Washington, D.C. The keynote speaker Didongsheng mentioned turned out to be Guan Video, Deputy Director of the Information Office of the State Council of the PRC. Another guest was Ross Terrell, author of Mao, A Biography, a fellow at the Fulbright Center at Harvard University, and a Woodrow Wilson Center Scholar of Public Policy. Why does political propaganda published by the Communist Party's publicity department appear in the United States? Some locals revealed on Twitter that the bookstore owner, Liza Muscatine, is one of the 3 ghostwriters of Hillary Clinton's memoir, Living History. She spent 2 years working for Clinton. Mr. D's revelations about Beijing's relationship with Wall Street in such detail before January 20th may become one more clue and possibly evidence for the Trump lawyers who are investigating fraud in the U.S. election.
天下没有美元搞不定的事情，是吧？如果一打美元搞不定，是吧？那我就，亮他。这个，当然这是我的工作方式了，是吧？
The Biden team and the top brass in Beijing must have been upset about this, and the video of Mr. D's speech has now been removed from the internet in mainland China. On the eve of the election, the hard drive gate scandal surfaced, which revealed some of the details of the Biden family's collusion with the Chinese Communist Party. Evidence showed that Biden, through his son Hunter, was involved in corrupt business deals with China's CEFC, China Energy Company Limited, for huge sums of money while he was vice president of the U.S. In December 2013, then Vice President Biden visited China to meet with Xi Jinping, accompanied by his son Hunter. After the trip, Hunter's company received a $1.5 billion investment fund from the Chinese. Perhaps this is one of the many examples of how the Chinese Communist Party has infiltrated the United States. The relationship between the CCP and Wall Street, and even the top level of the U.S. political circle, like the Biden family, is no secret now. Such an easy-to-understand account like Mr. D's speech of how the Red regime is dealing with Wall Street and the U.S. top circles is rare. We encourage you to do your own research and find out more on your own.
现在是什么？是种到这家院子里边来，规则什么时候浇水，什么时候晒太阳，是由我们来定啊，所以这个主导权是不一样的。